Hey, what's up, everyone? It's been a while since we got to be able to do one of these Free Advice Fridays. In fact, I don't think I've done one for pretty much most of the summer. So, looking forward to being here, hanging out, and having the opportunity to answer some of your questions again. It's been a very, very, very busy summer. I just had a lot going on and ultimately had to make the decision that, you know what, Free Advice Friday had to take a temporary hiatus. But hey, we're back now. That's what's important. I am here. I am hanging out. I am ready to answer all of your voiceover business and marketing questions. And so that is what is going to go down for Free Advice Friday. Now, as always, I like to start off the show with something that I want to talk about. And earlier this week, I shared a post in the VOpreneur Facebook group. And I was talking about the lost art of customer service. And if you've ever had an interaction, at least recently anyway, with a major organization from a customer service standpoint, do you ever get the feeling like they don't actually care? Do you ever get the feeling like they're not really listening to you? They've got a manual that they have to look at, and their manual tells them what to do. In most instances, that just means, give them a gift card or give them something for free and hope they'll go away, but it doesn't actually solve the problem. And I just don't think that that's customer service at all. And the reason why I brought this up is because it's something that I also see happening in the voiceover industry. And maybe it's just a byproduct of the way that we are treated as customers when we are conducting business with other organizations. But I really think that a big part of your success in this industry is going to come from your customer service and the level of customer service that you provide. And I can look to different examples in my own business, and I can point to testimonials that I have from clients. And a big part of the reason why they keep coming back, they never tell me like, you've got the perfect voice, so you're the most amazing voice actor. What they always say is, you delivered amazing service. You delivered really fast. Thank you for being so easy to work with. Thank you for taking care of whatever it was that we needed. Those are the things that speak, and those are the reasons why they keep coming back. And those are also the reasons why they tell their friends and why they make referrals. And so having a mindset and an attitude towards just exceptional customer service and going above and beyond with customer service, I think is so key to finding success in this industry now. And I think that that's probably going to become even more true as we move further down the road into AI and whatever AI is going to look like for voiceover. The craving for that human interaction and for that next level customer service, I think, becomes even more important. Because if you're difficult to work with, if you're a jerk, why wouldn't I go to AI then at that point? Like it impacts the value proposition. One of the areas where I see this come up a lot is with rates. I don't think there's a day that goes by where there's not a thread in one of the Facebook groups in the voiceover community with somebody griping about their stupid client and rates. And it's really kind of frustrating. And so I have this concrete pad in my backyard, decent sized concrete pad that was put there by the previous homeowner. And it's where our fire pit is. It's where we sit when we have family barbecues. It just gives us a nice place to sit. It's level ground. It's easy to clean up, all of those things. But that concrete pad is really in rough shape. It's been there for a long time. It's starting to break apart. The weeds are coming through. And so I've started to face the reality that, I'm probably going to have to think about replacing this concrete pad sooner than later. This is how much I know about concrete pads. Like literally this much. I know nothing. So when I reached out to someone who works in the concrete industry and started talking to them about this concrete pad, my hope was that they were going to be able to educate me. Okay, if this is the size of pad that you're looking for, this is how many inches thick that we recommend that you do it. This is approximately how long it's going to take. This is what it's going to cost. This is how it all works. And I want them to be able to spell that out for me because I don't have a clue. Now, if I called the concrete guy and I was like, I need a concrete pad, I was kind of hoping like maybe this was kind of the budget I was thinking about, but I don't know if that's realistic. And the concrete guy was like, you're an idiot. I'm not talking to you anymore. You obviously have no respect for me or my industry. And so this conversation is over. Like, that's not the guy I'm going to hire for concrete. And even as I'm saying that, you're like, oh my gosh, would somebody actually respond like that? Well, voice actors do it every day. They do it every day, and then they go to Facebook groups to gripe about it because they think that because a client came in with a low budget or a client pitched a possible low number, obviously that client is trying to screw them. That client is a bane on the existence of the industry. That client should never be allowed to have voiceover. This is a voiceover red flag. We've got to shame this client everywhere, pass their name around. What if they just don't know any better? What if they weren't trying to screw you at all? What if they just don't know any better? What if, like, I was counting on the concrete contractor to educate me and be patient with me and be respectful with me? What if the client came to you as the voice actor looking for the same thing? We have this expectation, some have this expectation, that everybody that's working with voice actors should know everything there is to know about the industry, that they should understand the different usages, that they should understand length of usage. So, is it going to be for 6 weeks or 12 weeks, or is it going to be for a year? Or are they asking for in perpetuity? We think that they should understand all the different genres. Like, how many voice actors, be honest with me, you're watching this right now. How many of you, give me a thumbs up, do it in the chat. Give me a thumbs up in the chat. How many of you have looked at the GVAA rate guide and been confused? All the time. I go and look at the GVAA rate guide and I get confused. I'm a working voice actor, a professional working voice actor. So why would we have this expectation that somebody who is not directly working in voiceover would have a complete and total understanding of voiceover rates? Why would we get upset if they don't have a complete and total understanding of voiceover rates? Why would we think the worst in every one of those situations? And so the point that I want to make here is that a big part of your job is education. Yes, we want to be in the booth. We want to be recording voiceovers. We want to be sending invoices. We want to be cashing checks. But a big part of your job is going to be education. It is going to be patience. When a client comes to you with an unrealistic budget, your responsibility is to sit down and walk them through where your rate comes from and how you got to that number. It is not to respond to them and say, this budget is crap and it's offensive, and then go into a Facebook group and shame them and, call them out for being a terrible client, which I see this stuff happening and it blows my freaking mind. So just remember that a big part of what you are supposed to be doing as a voice actor is educating. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Do you have a budget that you're trying to work with? How long are you planning on using this project for? Do you know where this project is going to be used? Maybe, and I have seen this many times, maybe the reason why they put in perpetuity is because they've just seen that on other projects and they just thought, well, that's just the standard. Because they don't actually know what in perpetuity means, or maybe they know what it means, but they don't actually understand why it is a bad thing for a voice actor. Because I can tell you from experience, I have had many conversations with clients and potential clients in the past where I have asked about in perpetuity usage and explained to them why I'm not willing to agree to in perpetuity usage. And they have said, oh, well, we didn't understand that. Or, well, I didn't know that that was the way it worked. Or, oh, we never thought about that. They just are thinking, let's get this video and then we can just always use the video. That's literally what they're thinking. They're not thinking, let's get this video, put it on the internet, use it forever, and hopefully screw Marc out of potential voiceover jobs. That is not what is going on in their head. And so it's my job to patiently, calmly, and respectfully educate them on these things, not call them out and shame them and talk smack about them in private, closed voiceover Facebook communities. So that's what I wanted to talk about off the top today. I just want to talk about the dying art of customer service and just give you a reminder that this is part of the gig. And that when you have those patient and respectful conversations with clients, more often than not, they're going to see what you're saying. More often than not, they're going to be like, oh, that makes sense. More often than not, they're going to be willing to compromise with you. More often than not, they're going to negotiate. Are there going to be some people who are just going to say no? Yes, of course there are. That happens in every industry. But more often than not, you're going to find that if you can have a respectful conversation with someone and you can explain where you're coming from, at the very least, they're going to know for next time. Maybe it doesn't work out on this project. Maybe they had a fixed budget because they didn't know at the time. And so they told their boss, this is what we think it's going to cost, and there's nothing they can do about it. But maybe next time they can go to their boss and say, look, we goofed the last time. And so now this is what we need to make this happen. But that we don't get to that point if we don't have the patience to educate them in the first place. And so that's what I have for you. Be patient and understand that education is a big part of this, and being willing to take the time to have those conversations is a big part of this. This is why I love what Brad Hyland talks about, jumping on a Zoom call with them. And it's something that I offer to my clients. I offer them the opportunity. Do you want to jump on a call? Do you want to jump on a Zoom? Sometimes it's easier to just have that conversation than it is to go back and forth in email. That being said, if I am discussing rates with a client and we're walking through some of these nuances and we're doing that on a Zoom or we're doing that on the phone, I am always going to send them an email summary after the fact so that I have a paper trail now. So keep that in mind too. But just be willing to have those conversations and don't assume that every client is out to screw you. Drew says, when doing B2B, please remember that they are your customer and you are their customer. A motto to live by. The customer is not always right, but a customer is always the customer. Valid. Valid. All right, everyone. What can I answer for you on Free Advice Friday? What questions do you have for me on Free Advice Friday? The whole point for me being here is to answer some of your voiceover business and marketing questions. So welcome, Drew. Welcome, Casey, TJ, Ken. Who else is here? Ann, Joan. Thanks for hanging out, guys. Looking forward to answering some of your questions today. Jane, glad to see you. Appreciate you guys hanging out. If you've got a question that you would like to ask, all you have to do is put it into the comments, but I would ask if you could just put a Q beside it before you type your question. It just makes it a little bit easier for me. Once the chat gets popping, sometimes it's hard for me to find the questions or spot the questions right away, so I don't want to miss anything. So if you could just throw a Q in there, again, it just makes it a little bit easier for me to find. And I'm happy to start answering your questions. I can hang out for a little while. I missed you. And I missed doing this with you. So let's find out whether or not I still have it. Do I still have the capacity to answer questions intelligently on the fly after taking 2 months off almost for the summer? Speaking of which, what did you guys do this summer? I spent a lot of time at the North Pole visiting my wife's family. A lot more time than I had originally expected to spend at the North Pole. But that's what was up. That was a lot of what was going on this summer, which was part of the reason why there wasn't a lot of Free Advice Fridays going on. But we're here now. So what can I answer for you? What do you want to talk about? Oh, look at that. Ann says that she missed a Me Too. I was kind of surprised actually when I sat down and looked. I was like, oh, geez, you haven't done one of these since July 5th. That's a long time. That's like one of the longest stretches that I've gone without doing a Free Advice Friday. So we are back in the groove now. And hopefully I'll be able to do a bunch of these in September. I know that I will not probably be doing one the weekend of the eVocation conference, but I'm very excited about the eVocation conference. I hope you guys are signing up. I hope you bought your tickets to eVocation. I am working away on my keynote, feeling really good about it. It took me a while to figure out what direction I was going to go with it, but then it came to me one night, and so the keynote is being written. So I am very excited to be having the opportunity to do the keynote presentation at eVocation. I'm going to be teaching a marketing class at eVocation as well. I have to tell you, that one, I don't have anything yet. I haven't come up with that one. So I will. I will, though. We'll get there. But eVocation, by the way, it's happening September 20th to the 22nd. So just a few weeks away. Vocationconference.com is the website. Vocationconference.com if you want to check it out and pick up your tickets. All right, let's see. Jasmine here. Busy stay-at-home mom of preschoolers. Whew, I feel you on that one. Been slacking big time. Advice for small, effective marketing efforts, especially targeted contact. Look, I've got a 4-month-old in the house and I've got a 3-year-old in the house. I understand. I also have my wife who does most of the hard work and heavy lifting on that front, but I definitely know what it's like to have the kids running around, and that can certainly be a distraction. So a couple of things that I think of, nap time. Nap time is a good time to grab a few minutes to send a couple of emails. And the other thing too, and you don't always want to do this, but doing some stuff in the evening and scheduling it to go out the next day, that can work. So writing some emails, if you got to wait until 7 or 8 or 9 o'clock at night or whatever, and write half a dozen emails, you can schedule them to send the next day during business hours. I've had to do stuff like that before. I still do that every once in a while because sometimes my days are full. So I will write some emails in the evening and have them ready to go. I think that looking for opportunities to outsource wherever you can, that's going to help as well. So maybe that looks like having a virtual assistant who does the lead generation for you. Often finding the leads and doing some of that initial research, that's the hardest and most time-consuming part of all of this. And so if you can have somebody that could do that for you, then when you do have a few minutes that you can actually sit down, now you've got a list that you can start working from. And I think that can build in efficiency for sure, making things go a little bit smoother. So a lot of it is just grabbing time wherever you can, and then, waiting for them to go to kindergarten. So, which I say that. And then at the same time, I'm like, the boo goes to kindergarten next year. And I don't actually know how I feel about that. Like, I want her to be here all day. I want her to just pop into my office randomly. I'm going to miss when that doesn't happen anymore. All right, let's see. Where are we going? Nicole says, I'm setting up a Nimble email sequence, but I want to maintain a personal connection with my leads, at least in the initial email. What's the best way to do that? Great question, Nicole. This is actually something I've been working on for the last week. So I just started a brand new Nimble sequence on Wednesday. And so that email sequence is a follow-up sequence. So what I have set up in Nimble is I write the personalized introductory email. So the first email, I write that email individually to everyone. Always have, always will. After I send that email, I drop them into my sequence, which has time delays in it. So it will start sending follow-ups after 5 days. So that was the way that I did it. So my follow-up sequence is more generic, but still targeted because I have a follow-up sequence. So right now I'm working on eLearning. So the follow-up sequence is dedicated specifically to eLearning leads. And so the content of that follow-up sequence has been written with an instructional designer or eLearning developer in mind. So even though it's not quite as personalized, and you can use merge tags to put in individual names, company names, things of that nature. And I've done some of that. But that was the way that I worked around it. So wrote the initial email, sent the initial email as an individual personalized email, and then added them to the sequence with time delays to start afterwards. For those of you that have bought my Nimble course, I don't want to say this out loud, but I'm about to create accountability for myself. I actually have been getting my sequences up and running. I've got 3 going right now. And so that was one of the things that I was working on in August. I finally had some time to sit down and get some of those sequences going. And so now that I've had a chance to play around with it a little bit, and I'm still tweaking a few things and waiting to see the results on a couple of the sequences, but sooner than later, now that I've had a chance to play with sequences, I will update my Nimble course to reflect sequences. I'll add a module to it. And when I get that done, I'll let everybody that's signed up for the course, I'll let them know that new module is there and it's available to be viewed. But sequences are going to be huge for me. I'm really excited about them, and I'm using them in a couple of different ways now. I've built out some nurture sequences for prospects. I got 2 different nurture sequences that have got 10 emails each in them. And that's just going to, drip out over time. And so I'm really looking forward to seeing how that plays out. But having the option to include some automation is, it's amazing. Absolutely amazing having that option. Mark says, I found some Dr. Pepper Krispy Kreme donuts in the market today. I'd be happy to send them up to you. Wouldn't be able to guarantee their freshness. There are a couple of Krispy Kremes in Ontario. I'm curious if they're if I knew, this is how ridiculous I am. If I knew that I could get the Dr. Pepper Krispy Kreme at the Krispy Kreme there's one about an hour from me, I would actually drive there for it. But Canada doesn't get nice things. All the cool stuff comes to the States. And so I'm nervous about driving all the way there and then facing the disappointment of not actually being able to get one. Just like you guys had the Dr. Pepper ice cream. What was the company that made the Dr. Pepper ice cream? Like, we just don't get nice things in Canada. It makes me sad. It makes me sad. TJ says, thrilled to have a ticket to eVocation. Looking forward to your keynote. Oh, great. Good. Don't put any pressure on me though, okay? The more that I get into this keynote, the more that I feel like I am not worthy of keynoting eVocation, but I am absolutely humbled that they asked me. 4th year attending eVocation. Looking forward to your keynote presentation and the class. I got to figure out what this class is going to be. I haven't come up with that one yet. All right. What else you guys want to talk about? Welcome, Sean, Bev, Uncle Roy's here. If you guys have got a question, I'm happy to answer it. Type it in the comments, put a Q beside it. Let's get some voiceover business and marketing advice flowing. Thank you guys for joining me on Free Advice Friday. Good to see so many of you here. By the way, if you're enjoying the live stream, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button. I would certainly appreciate it. It will help like 6 more people, maybe 7 more people find this video eventually. So every one of those likes makes a big difference. Let's see. What else is going on? Uncle Roy says my class should be Smoking Brisket 101. Guys, I did a brisket 2 weekends ago. 2 weekends ago. It was like a 15-pound brisket. Oh my gosh, it was amazing. It was stinking amazing. And then here's the best part. We had leftover brisket the next day. And we took that leftover brisket, chopped it up, and then my wife made what would basically be like the equivalent of a shepherd's pie, but she used the brisket. And then I made the most amazing smoky, creamy mushroom sauce to put on top of it. And it's like, oh, dang. I should do a brisket this weekend. Now you got me thinking about it. What can I answer for you guys? Who's got a question on Free Advice Friday? What do you want to talk about? I'm sorry there was no episode on the podcast this week. That was my fault. I got a little bit behind over the summer, and then I had a couple of people cancel, and that put me out of schedule. So I did miss the episode this week. But I've got some good stuff coming up. I did an amazing interview. I'm actually in the process of editing it today. Had an amazing interview with Tawny Plattis. Tawny has had, get this, 82 million views just on her YouTube channel alone. 82 million views just on YouTube. Hundreds of thousands of followers on TikTok, hundreds of thousands of followers on Instagram. So I had an amazing interview with her where we talked about video and social media and going viral and all the things that go into that. So that interview is coming up. Let's see, what else have I got coming up? For September, I'm going to be talking to Jessica Matheson. Some of you may remember or know Jessica from VO Atlanta. She's part of the glue that holds that conference together behind the scenes. And she is a very, very successful entrepreneur, not just in voiceover, but in other. She's run multiple other small businesses as well. So we're going to talk about small business and entrepreneurship. Hugh Klitsky is coming up, and we're going to talk about conversational VO. And let's see, what else? I got Billy from CESD. We're going to talk about what is CESD looking for. to get signed by a VO super agent. And so some good stuff coming up on the podcast for September. So stand by for that. How important is it to not reach out to people on a holiday like Monday? I do think that it's not worth it. I think I will be available because it's not a holiday everywhere. Like if you have clients around the globe, it's not a holiday everywhere. So if I have a client from Dubai reach out to me on Monday and say, "Hey, can you do something?" I will probably do something, but I'm definitely not marketing on Monday. Holiday in Canada and the US, I believe. I do pay attention to that stuff. And I think that's one of the reasons why it's important to have your CRM, the ability to segment your CRM in some way so that you're not marketing to Canadian clients on Thanksgiving in October, because yes, in Canada, we do Thanksgiving in October. But at the same time, if you're a Canadian and you celebrated Thanksgiving in October, you want to make sure that you're not marketing to your US clients during their Thanksgiving in November. And so I think that's something that you do need to pay attention to. And I think that's why you should have your CRM set up in a way that allows you to target by geographic regions so that you are making sure that you're paying attention to those little details. Are Mondays ever a good day to reach out to people? This is an interesting question as well. I think that, and I talk about this in Playbook, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, generally speaking, those are proven to be the better days to do your marketing. There's an argument to be made that on Friday, people have already checked out for the weekend. There's an argument to be made that on Monday, they're trying to get caught up. They're trying to get their week planned out. They're still trying to recover from the weekend, whatever. And so it's not worth it. My response to that would be any email sent has a better chance at producing a result than an email not sent. So if Monday is the only time that you have to market, then you market on Monday because it's better than not marketing at all. That being said, if I'm going to market on a Monday, I am generally not going to send my emails until Monday afternoon. And this is, keep in mind, this is new leads, reaching out to new people. So I'm not going to send it until Monday afternoon. And if I am going to send something on a Friday, I'm generally going to schedule it to go out in the morning because I think there's a better chance at getting a result on a Friday morning than there is on a Friday afternoon. So trying to be a little bit strategic about that. This is my first time here today. Regarding marketing, which CRM is your personal favorite to use? What are some LinkedIn changes that you feel are immediately helpful in the present? So I'm a Nimble user. I have been a Nimble user for many, many years. There are a lot of other CRMs that are out there, of course, but Nimble is the one that I have been using since, I want to say 2016. I'm going to put a link in the chat here. Princess, check that link out. If you sign up there, you can get a free 30-day trial of Nimble. It's an extended trial of Nimble. Play around with it. I would say that most small business / solopreneur geared CRMs do the same things, basically. Certain ones will have a few extra bells and whistles, a few different bells and whistles, maybe slightly different functionality, but for the most part, many of them do similar things. And I've played around with a bunch of different CRMs. I just found that Nimble was the easiest one for me to adapt to everything that I needed, and they're constantly working on it, which I like as well. Sequences, which I talked about earlier in the live stream. Sequences is amazing. That new feature, that one new feature alone sets Nimble apart from a lot of the other CRMs that are out there in that same kind of price point, that, $25, $30 a month price point or whatever. But check that out. What are some LinkedIn changes that you feel are immediately helpful in the present? One of the things that LinkedIn is working on right now is using AI to figure out who to push content to. So rather than using hashtags, which hashtags still function on LinkedIn, but it sounds like they're moving away from the hashtag strategy. So rather than using hashtags, they're going to look at the content of the post And based on the content of the post, they're going to try to determine the audience that they're going to push it out to, at least to a degree. So if I was writing a post about my e-learning work, for example, I might want to try to find a way in that post to throw in instructional designer or to throw in the words e-learning developer, because if the AI sees that, then it might think, oh, this is a post for e-learning developers. Let's push it out and see if any of them like it. And so that's one of the changes that is happening right now, and it's one that I am definitely paying attention to. Any plans in the future for another live workshop on cold email outreach? I don't remember the name of the workshop. The goal was to get it done in 5-ish minutes. I believe you gave the feedback. Yes, my introductory email workshop. I am actually thinking about trying to do one in September. That was something that I was looking at this week, is possibly running a couple of them in September. So if I do, watch for them in the first half of September, which means I'm probably going to have to make a decision on those pretty quickly. But yes, I actually, because I've had a few people asking about that, so I am thinking about doing one in September. All right, let's see. Do you have a marketing class? I can't remember. I have all kinds of marketing classes. Let me put a link in the chat for you. If you go to VOpreneur.com and click on the store button, VOpreneur.com and click on the store button, you can check out some of the different classes that I have available. I would show you a screenshot, but unfortunately, something happened with Ecamm Live. And it's a lot harder. Something happened. There was an update, and I haven't had a chance to play around with it. I think you guys can see this now. But yeah, if you go to VOpreneur.com and click on the store button, you can see here, Voiceover Marketing Playbook. That is my main class. That one is going to be coming out in October again, so you could watch for that. But here's some other ones. Making Money with LinkedIn. Obviously, that's all about LinkedIn. 101 ways to find VO leads. That is exactly what it is. Actually, it's 122 different places where you can look for voiceover leads. Follow-Up Academy is a class that is a 2-hour masterclass dedicated entirely to teaching you how to build a follow-up strategy, because it takes more than one email to make this happen. Book It in Your Backyard is a local marketing class, 2-hour local marketing class. So, you can check these out. I won't go through all of them, but you can check them out at VOpreneur.com. And click on the store button. Casey says, considering the political ads are a 24/7 operation right now with the presidential election coming up, is it okay to send emails on weekends? What do you suggest for a follow-up frequency? I don't know that I would necessarily be marketing to these political companies on weekends, but when I am marketing to political companies, and just to be clear, I am not. I don't do political. But if I were marketing to the political leads, I would certainly make a point of letting them know of my availability. So, I'm available nights, weekends, early mornings, holidays, whatever, because for now, that is part of the value proposition that you bring to the political space. So if you are working there, would I specifically be sending marketing emails on a weekend? No. Would I let people know that I am available to work on a weekend? Absolutely, yes, I would. Princess Williams says, sequencing. What is sequencing and how has it improved your marketing goals? Sequencing is a form of automation. We'll call it a drip sequence. So I can write a series of emails. One of the series that I wrote has 10 different emails in it. And it will send one of those emails once a month. It'll just send out that next email. And so rather than me having to remember to go in and send follow-up emails, now that side of things is fully automated. So I spent the day writing the sequence, writing out all of those individual emails, but then I set it up so that it's fully automated to run in the background. So the people that I add to that sequence will get a new email once a month, talking about another aspect of my voiceover services, or inviting them to listen to my demos, or inviting them to book a Zoom call with me or whatever. So it's a form of automation, an email automation. Mariella, can you talk about the importance of being clear about what you want and need from clients? So I think everybody's got to be on the same page. I think that ultimately makes for a better working relationship. I think don't be afraid to ask questions. which I think is really important as well. Sometimes, and particularly if you're a newer voice actor and you're still trying to figure out how does this all work and figure out the dynamics of relationships with new clients, and that can be for a new voice actor or a veteran voice actor, trying to figure out those dynamics. Sometimes we're worried about asking questions because we're worried that if we start asking questions, they're going to think that we don't know what we're doing, or they're going to think that we're difficult to work with, or, like we have this mentality that they send the script, we record the script, we deliver the script, done. Shut up, don't do anything else. And I just don't think that's accurate. And so I'm not afraid to ask questions. I'm not afraid to ask for clarifying questions about usage or about direction or about the script itself or whatever. So I think part of it is having that confidence and that willingness to ask those questions. I'm not afraid to look dumb either. Like if somebody sends me something and I'm like, I have no idea how to pronounce this word, and if I can't find the pronunciation online, I'm not afraid to send them a message and say, hey, can you maybe record this on your phone and send it back to me so I can hear it, or something like that. And so I think that's a lot of it is just making sure that everybody is on the same page from the get-go. One of the things that I've done with my clients now is I send out a message and say for revisions, and I have a revisions policy, but with new clients, I also explain what I want those revisions to look like. So for example, if I've done an e-learning job for a client and they send me 2 or 3 lines that they need revised, but they just send me those lines, I don't want to sit down and go through an hour of recorded audio to figure out where those lines fit in. And so I just say, hey, can you let me know, give me the paragraph before, the paragraph after, highlight the change, let me know what slide it's in. And that way I can just turn this around and deliver it to you much more quickly. So I'm making it sound like it's a benefit to them, but the reality is it's also a huge benefit to me. And so that's something that I'm not afraid to talk about up front. So I think that's a lot of it is just, and look, part of it too is you're going to figure it out over time. I didn't always do that with my revisions policy. It wasn't until after I did a few jobs and I'm like, this is a dumb way to do this. There's got to be a better way to do this. And so then I introduced that. I think talking about payment terms, that is something that I think is a conversation that doesn't happen enough. And so then we get all panicked because we did the job and it's been 3 days and they haven't paid us yet, but maybe the company works on a net 90-day term and you should have known that up front or had that conversation up front. I let all my clients know that I'm net 30. The expectation is that payment will be made within 30 days. And that's pretty standard. But you got to have that conversation up front so that they know where you're at, you know where they're at. And so it's stuff like that. And that's where I think jumping on a quick Zoom or jumping on a quick phone call and just kind of talking through some of that sort of stuff so you can make sure that you're both on the same page and that you know where each other's coming from. Dun, 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 dun. Marc's courses are completely worth the hand cramps I've had from all the notes I take. I love that. Thank you so much. I appreciate that, TJ. Doo-doo. I've listened to several of your interviews, which I've enjoyed and learned so much. As an entrepreneur also juggling family needs, have you hired outside help? Yeah, there are certain things that I outsource. Lead generation is definitely one of those things. I have outsourced things periodically on a project-to-project basis as well. But I've also developed systems and processes over time that help me to do things quicker and more efficiently. So, for example, building my Nimble sequence. That is sending follow-up emails is a very time-consuming task. And now that I have that done and fully automated, that gives me back my time. Using a plugin in Adobe Premiere to edit the video version of my podcast, that's the only reason the video version of my podcast exists, because otherwise I would not be able to do it. I do not have the time for it. And so part of it is outsourcing, part of it is getting more efficient over time. Working with Uncle Roy and learning the ins and outs of Adobe Audition was a massive time saver for me. The things that he was able to teach me cut my editing time by probably 20 or 30% at least. And so it's that too. It's what can I outsource? Am I outsourcing it to a person? Am I outsourcing it to a process? Am I outsourcing it to software? Am I outsourcing it to a service? Where can I build in efficiencies? Can I learn how to be better in Adobe Audition? Can I learn how to be more confident with my auditioning process? Can I learn how to do punch and rolls so that I can reduce the amount of time that I spend, tweaking my auditions? It's little things like that I think that you can pick up along the way that can help you to build in time and efficiency savings as well. And so look for things like that. And part of it is just getting in your reps. When I first started doing e-learning, if I got a 4,000 word e-learning script, it would probably take me 3 or 4 hours to record and deliver that. And then after a while, it took me, 2.5 hours to record and deliver that. And now I might be able to do a script like that, record, edit, and deliver in an hour and a half. And part of that is just getting in my reps and just getting better over time. And so there's something to be said for that as well. My granddaughter Emmy is here, and she would like you to say hi to her. Hi, Emmy. Thanks for hanging out and watching. Appreciate it. I can answer a voiceover question for you. That's all I know anything about. I would offer to answer questions about something else, but I probably have nothing else intelligent to offer on any other subject. Have you used and found any benefits to using Alignable? I am genuinely flabbergasted that Alignable still exists. Honestly. I mean, I remember getting my first Alignable invite. Oh my gosh, like what? 8 years ago? I don't even know. It was a long time ago when I got my first Alignable invite. And I remember looking at it, and I wrote a blog on this at one point in time. And I said, I'm not really sure what the problem is that Alignable is trying to solve. Alignable is trying to be LinkedIn, but LinkedIn is already LinkedIn. So I don't know where Alignable fits in the space. And it just disappeared, right? Like it did not last for very long. But now all of a sudden it apparently is making a comeback, or maybe people are just rediscovering it for the first time or something, because I am getting a lot of people that are asking me questions about it. I do not use Alignable. I have not used Alignable since the original invite, whenever that was, 8 or 10 years ago. I just didn't see the value proposition in it. It didn't really seem like there was anybody on it. And it didn't do anything for me that LinkedIn wasn't already doing. And I was already so heavily invested in LinkedIn that it just didn't feel like, to me, the idea of adding another social network at this point, like I need that, like I need another hole in my head. I have a hard enough time keeping up with the ones that I've got already. So the idea of adding another one, especially another one that didn't present a very unique value proposition to me, it just didn't seem like it was worth it. So at this point, I am not using Alignable. Now, maybe it's gonna have its moment in the sun, and maybe one of these days I will eat those words, and you will find me all over Alignable. But for now, no, nope, no Alignable for me. Dion Marie, is your marketing playbook appropriate for other areas outside of voiceover, such as self-publishing, low or medium content books? I can tell you, okay, Playbook is geared towards voiceover. So what Playbook does, the main thing that Playbook does is it teaches you the foundations of marketing, the essential things that you need to know, but it teaches it from a voiceover perspective. Now, have people taken Playbook in the past and taken those marketing lessons that are geared towards voiceover and geared them towards something else? Absolutely. I've had a bunch of people who have taken it and used the lessons that they learned for their voiceover business, but also for side hustles. And I've coached some people with some of their side hustles as well. Not specifically that I know anything about whatever it is that they're doing their side hustle in, but marketing is marketing for the most part. And so it's just a matter of how do we take this foundational marketing principle and apply it to whatever your other business is. So could you learn some lessons from Playbook that you could apply to that space? Probably. Ira says, Marc, since you're the e-learning king, how long should one plan to spend on recording a half-hour e-learning course the first time? I think that you can probably figure that out if you just look at your auditioning ratio. You'll probably and kind of do the math. So I would say 3-1, 2-1, 3-1. If it's really complex material, you might get to 4-1. And so what that is, like 4 hours in the booth for one finished hour of audio. So for a 30-minute script, a 3-1 would be, it takes you an hour and a half to record that script. I think 30 minutes, like for me at this point, a 30-minute script, if it's a fairly straightforward script, I'm probably recording that in 45 minutes. And then it's going to take me another 45 minutes to edit it. But I think, if you were to look at a 30-minute, if I was budgeting my time, let's go back, 5 or 6 years, 10 years. If I was budgeting my time, I would probably budget 4-1 total. So 4-1 ratio to record, edit, and deliver. So a 30-minute script, I would want to budget 2 hours at least to record, edit, and deliver. Everybody's going to be different. And it is going to vary from script to script. If that's a complex medical, it's probably going to take longer than that. And you're going to get better over time. That's the other thing. But it's easy enough to figure out just by, if you've recorded a 10-minute corporate narration, for example. Well, how long did it take you to record that corporate narration? If it took you 15 minutes, then you just do the math. If it took you 20 minutes, you do the math and work it out. My favorite thing in that case, though, if I had a 30-minute e-learning script and I told the client, say, okay, so maybe they send it to me on Monday morning, and I tell the client, I'm going to have this back to you, I can have this back to you tomorrow afternoon, Tuesday afternoon. But then I deliver it 6 hours later. And they're like, oh, you're amazing. You just made my day. So I like to do that as well, right? So that's one of those situations where you under promise, over deliver. What else is going on, everyone? What can I answer for you? There are 42 of you currently watching this live stream, which means that half of you still need to hit the like button. Hit the like button for me if you are enjoying Free Advice Friday, if I've answered one of your questions, if you thought one of the answers to one of the questions was intelligent, if you like the plant in the background, if you just want to be nice, just hit the like button. Hit the like button. I would appreciate it. And ask some questions. What can I answer for you? And if I missed your question, please feel free to drop it in again if I missed it. I certainly don't want to miss any questions. Thanks for sharing, Marc. What's your go-to strategy for growing a podcast audience from scratch? I am still trying to figure this out, to be honest with you. And I'm 270 episodes in, and I'm still trying to figure out how to grow an audience. I think that you got to find your niche. You've got to figure whatever that niche is that you're working towards, and you build an ideal customer avatar around that niche. What does that person look like? That one person that you're building the podcast for. And as you build that customer avatar, you can start to figure out, okay, this is what they look like. Where are they? Where do they spend their time? Maybe that means that you've got to target your efforts to a specific social media. Maybe that means that you join some Facebook communities or LinkedIn groups, and start engaging with an audience in there, and not engaging by going in and just promoting your podcast, but just going in and engaging with the content that's being shared so that you can start to build up your identity and build up your credibility. I think another really easy way is, how do I get access to somebody else's audience? And so for the first couple years that I did this podcast, I was totally and completely opposed to doing interviews, because I was just looking at the work. I was looking at how much work it was going to be to prep an interview, to record an interview, to edit an interview, to put the whole thing together. And I was like, it's just too much work. It's too much time. And so I was just recording my own episodes, just going in and talking about stuff. But then I had the epiphany at some point, and I think it's because I heard somebody else talk about it in a podcast that I was listening to, a marketing podcast that I was listening to, where let's just say that, I mean, look, everybody in the entire world knows J. Michael Collins. Everybody in the entire voiceover world knows who J. Michael Collins is. So if I bring J. Michael on my podcast and have a great interview with him, when he is done that interview, I'm going to go share it on my social media, but J. Michael is probably going to go share it on his social media as well. And so I just amplified my audience in a very significant way, because now I got access to my guest's audience. And so one of the advantages that I realized to doing interviews was getting access to an audience that I might not otherwise have access to. And even if we do have a lot of the same audience, which obviously J. Michael and I have a lot of the same audience, it still amplifies the message because it's getting shared more times across more platforms to more people. And so that's something else that I think that I would be looking at is, if you're going to do an interview format, who are the influencers in this space that my audience wants to hear from? And can I get them to come on the show so that I can get access to their audience as well? Let's see. Fanny says, hey, Marc, it's always great to listen to you. Thanks for all the information. Where can I find medical narration leads? I did a podcast recently, which you can find on this YouTube channel, with Debbie Irwin. And Debbie and I talked about that. Debbie is an expert in the medical narration space. Let me see. I'm just going to find that interview. Here we go. I'm going to share this in the chat. Stand by. One of the most enlightening things that I learned from this interview with Debbie, and I do not do, actually I do medical narration. I didn't know that I did medical narration until I did this interview with Debbie, and she started talking about all the different types of medical narration. I was like, holy crap, I do some of that stuff. I actually do medical narration. But when she starts talking about all of the different areas of medical narration and where to find some of that work, it's incredibly eye-opening. So I'd encourage you to go and give that episode a listen, because she gave away tons of tips about where to find those leads. There are production companies that specialize in medical narration. So they specialize in either e-learning training. Some specialize in explainer whiteboard type videos. So you could certainly look for those as well. But then you can also expand that out, and, pharmaceutical companies, healthcare systems, medical device companies, things of that nature. Are they creating sales videos for their reps? Are they creating training videos for their staff or for their sales reps or whatever? And so I think there's a lot of different places where you can start to look. But I would say listen to that episode. I did put the link in the chat there. It's called Mastering Medical Narration. It is on this YouTube channel. I think that's going to be really helpful for you. All right, let's see. What time is it? I can still answer a few more. I got time for one or two more questions if you guys have got them. Sabrina says, when working with a client directly via email, do you have a formal contract that you send to them to sign, or is listing out the details, etc., usage pay, blah, 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 in the body of work or body of email okay? This is a really good question, Sabrina. I do have a one-page agreement that I will use in certain instances. And that one-page agreement is a very simple agreement that literally outlines the exact same things that you talked about. It outlines the usage, it outlines the rate, the length of the script, the revisions policy, etc. So in certain instances, I will absolutely use that. In other instances, I do exactly what you talked about, which is it's all there in the email. And what I will do is, if we've had a little bit of back and forth with the client or whatever, I may summarize. Just so we're clear, this is going to be a 30-second video that will exist on the company's website. It is not going to be used for any traditional or digital broadcast. This website or this video is going to exist on the website for 6 months, and the rate that we agreed to is X dollars. And so I summarize, and then if they're like, yep, then in my mind, I'm not a lawyer, it's as good as a contract. What I can tell you is that I have had an instance in the past where a client used my narration in a way that we had not agreed to. And I was able to use our email communications. I turned the email communications over to a lawyer, and we were able to get a settlement based on those email communications. So even though there wasn't an actual contract signed, because of the fact that everything was clearly outlined in an email and they had agreed to that outline in the email, we were able to use that in legal proceedings. Again, not a lawyer. Consult with a lawyer if you are unsure. Let me also share an episode of the podcast that I did with
So you think you know Wix.
Lynn Norris and her sister Karen White. Karen is a lawyer. Sorry, I'm just copying this and putting it in the chat. It's an episode that you might want to go back and give a listen to. All right, let's see. Russell says, studying press releases. This one's for a Lifetime Achievement Award, and I've whittled it down several times, but really don't know how to use it to any real benefit outside local. Did I miss the first part of your question, Russell? If I did, let me just scroll through. I feel like maybe I missed the first part of that. If I did, if you could type it again, and I apologize if I missed it. I'm scrolling back through and I'm not seeing it. Studying press releases. This one's for a Lifetime Achievement Award, and I've written it down several times. Yeah, can you just give me a little bit more context for that, Russell, and I can try to answer that question for you, if there's a question in there that you were wanting to ask. All right. Podcast will be back next week. The Everyday VOpreneur podcast, wherever fine podcasts are given away for free. And right here on the YouTube channel, you can watch the video version on the YouTube channel. You can download the audio version, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podbean, all the places. Also available at VOpreneur.com. So thank you so much for listening to that. Let me take a quick look at my calendar. Ooh. I booked a haircut for next Friday. That was dumb. Why did I do that? I never book haircuts on Friday. I might have to see if I can change my haircut. If I can change my haircut, I'll be back for Free Advice Friday next week. What the heck was I thinking booking the barber on Friday? I never booked a barber on Friday. There must have been some reason for that. Anyway, I'll have to figure that out. Roll. I apologize for getting that wrong. If you want to email me your question, feel free to email me, Marc at marcscottvoiceover.com, because I got to jump out here because I actually do have to go get ready for another session. But please email me the question, and I'm certainly happy to take a look at it if that's easier for you. Princess Williams, last question. Do you batch your auditions? What is your auditioning workflow allowing you to complete as many auditions as possible while still making time for marketing and your other personal goals? I'm at a point now where I don't have to audition nearly as much. I'm not on pay-to-play sites. And the biggest reason why I'm not on pay-to-play sites is because I simply don't have time to audition as much. And so the only auditions that I'm doing at this point are agent auditions, which I don't get a ton of agent auditions, not so many that it's overwhelming for me. And, the occasional audition for a client or a prospect. And so I just kind of do them as they come in. Honestly, that's my workflow for that. And that's kind of how I've always operated, because even with pay-to-plays, I mean, yeah, when I wake up in the morning, there might be half a dozen auditions, and I would have sat down and knocked out half a dozen of them at once. But then I was constantly going into the booth throughout the day as new things were coming in. And that was actually part of the problem for me with pay-to-plays, was that I felt like I had to be in the booth 24/7, because if you submit, 50th, you feel like it's pointless. And I couldn't handle that mentality. But yeah, for me, just based on where I'm at in my career at this point, I just kind of audition as they come in. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for coming and hanging out. I certainly appreciate it. Hopefully, I was able to answer some questions for you and dispense some helpful advice. I certainly do appreciate you taking the time out of your Friday to come and hang out with me. And hopefully it was worth it for you. I will try to figure out why I booked a haircut for next Friday. It's so random. Never book a haircut on a Friday. If I can reschedule that, then I will try to do Free Advice Friday again next week. In the meantime, make sure you sign up for eVocation. It's going to be a keynote to remember. I don't actually know if it is, but I'm just going to say that so that it'll make you want to buy a ticket, because I would love it if you bought a ticket. And I'll try to make it a keynote to remember. Vocationconference.com is the website for that one. Pick up your ticket. That's coming up September 20th through the 22nd. All right, whatever you decide to do this weekend, have fun, stay safe, and go find some leads.